Welcome, everyone, to the Global Goddess Fest, where men and women are tuning in to receive education, connection with global leaders, and gain inspiration on creating the life of your dreams. So today, I'm so excited to be bringing together these three badass women. We have Amanda Manares, LeahRose Farber, and Lika Berkovitz. So welcome, ladies, and I'll just be diving into a little introduction so all of our viewers can find out a little bit more about the magic that you're sharing in the world. And also a little preview for anyone that's coming in. These three women are meeting for the first time, and they're all coming from different fields of work. So it's going to be a really exciting time to see how collaboration and how connection and community can happen, without being in the physical same space, and also how we can unite as females that are really leading the pathway and, standing in our power and making some big changes in our own industries. So first, I'd like to introduce Amanda Maneras. She is going to be here representing Mind Astronaut. She's a business development professional with an extensive network. Her career focuses on new businesses and launching them and brand development. She's a badass in business development and partnered with businesses across many different industries, including environmental and sustainability, celebrity and entertainment media, neurobiology, technology, and health and wellness. So she has this huge plate of information that she's going to be sharing with us. She is an owner, investor, and advisory board member across a multitude of businesses, and she's an expertise in producing high-volume, complex, and sophisticated events. She's worked with clients ranging from Google, NBC, Universal Music Group, Bungalow Records, YouTube, the National Hockey League at NHL, Live Nation, Ozfest, a bunch of different celebrities and reality stars, large pharmaceutical companies, as well as multiple national and state level nonprofit organizations. So welcome, Amanda. I know you're just going to be bringing so much amazing information, and you have such a range that your bio is just incredible. So I'm really excited to see how you've been able to really channel in your feminine badassery through all of this work. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so excited to be here, and I just love you so much and support everything you do, and I'm really excited to get to know these ladies today.
Awesome. The next guest that we have that I'll be introducing is LeahRose Farber. She is here representing the sacred badassery, how our bodies are creative vessels for our work. Yeah. She is a mentor for women who lead other women, complete with a web of support and network, and bringing them the confidence to lead and a way to bring really powerful magic to the world. In 2015, she founded the Worldwide Women's Circle, which is an international movement bringing women leaders together from all around the world on the same day for women's circles. So welcome. So excited to have you here. And recently, I've been tapping into how I would really like Goddess Fest to become this movement, bigger than an organization. So I'm really excited to hear about your visions with the Worldwide Women's Circle and where you see that going and how you've created that so far.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. And I think it's really cool to be here with other women too, just to get the other viewpoints, these different viewpoints. Thank you.
And then our final guest is Lika Berkovitz, and she is going to be talking about and tapping into how our soul knows the next steps. She has bridged the world of the business and the spirituality for over 15 years as an MBA high-level project manager for Fortune 100 and 500 companies, master-level NLP practitioner, Reiki master, and master-level coach to executives and entrepreneurs. She has extensive experience drawing out the life's work of some of the world's most visionary, passionate, and accomplished change makers, helping them shape into tangible and practical form so that way they can finally make the impact they're intending on in the world. And she helps them do this with less effort, more flow, and with the deepest alignment of their soul and who they are and why they're here on this planet. So just really powerful work, kind of bridging our two first guests together. And I'm excited to have you here, Lisa. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Rae. I'm thrilled to be here and in such great company.
Definitely. So the first question that I have for all of you, because I know that you are all personally tapped in and aligned with your intuition. So I would love to hear about how you've trusted your intuition to allow yourself to become this master in your professional industry. And I would love to hear if you have any specific examples of decisions that you've made through your professional career that were based off of your intuition and how that helped project your business forward. So I'm sure that we've all used our intuition in our personal lives as well, but I would love to hone in on specifically the business aspect of what you're creating. And whoever would like to go first, we can popcorn around.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sure. So as you were asking the question, I had a very specific example come to mind. As you read my bio, which wow, sounded so good coming from you, as I reflect upon the last, I would say 15, 20 years of my career, again, intuitively, I really just followed the energy. And I say that all the time. There is a real physical sensation as well as emotional astral that happens that, if you pay attention to these subtle energy systems, ease and grace. You always flow in ease and grace. And some people, through conditioning or habit, they don't trust themselves. And I would say that my success is due to, if I'm passionate about it, even if I don't know how to do it, I just figure it out. And I've done that with my education and my whole career. And I really reflecting on that, I want to share something as well. Being comfortable in that space of the unknown, being brave enough to be bad at something new, and also knowing and identifying yourself enough and staying grounded enough that when those feelings of insecurity pop up, because as you're developing neural pathways and habits, right? If you're constantly challenging yourself and putting yourself in a position of being uncomfortable in your mind, continuously thinking those thoughts and being in that challenging space, if you will, you can, if you're not careful, build up habits of insecurity, not actually realizing that that emotion and energy that you're feeling is actually bravery because you were brave enough to be bad at something new. So it's really paying attention to your intuition, following your passion, connecting with those subtle energy systems, and then just figuring it out as you go by hiring people smarter than you, surrounding yourself with people who have strengths which are not your weaknesses, or my favorite is finding that great person at that great thing that I want to learn how to do and mentor under them.
I love this. What's amazing is I was actually just about to speak right before Amanda jumped in. So thanks for going first. And it's uncanny, but not at all, right? It's like, it makes perfect sense that it's almost identical the way you started. That is because the thought that came in my mind was actually a travel example that was directly related to my business. And I was going to say, it's really been about following the energy. So, I could echo, I do echo, and I often say so many of the things that Amanda just said. So I'm into that. I'll give you a specific example in my business. I I'm in my 8th year doing what I do now. And most of the time into my 7th year, I had been working virtually with clients. And I got this sort of download a few years ago that, because I wanted to travel. I love to travel. And so I just wanted to be able to be anywhere and do what I do from any location. And working virtually let me do that. So a few years ago, I had the download to actually let go of my home. I'm Canadian, born and raised in Toronto, let go of my home and actually just go nomadic for a period of time, which ended up being 3 years until a year ago. And that download came to me while I was in Bali, and that actually honed my intuition. Was already strong. I had made many decisions in my career to that point, but that letting go of my home and it's entering into that nomadic journey honed my ability to follow the energy at a whole other level, to live in a space of a degree of surrender, faith, trust. So not knowing often where I would be going next just until the last moment, but there was so much energy, so much life force behind that. And ultimately what happened was this focus of my business got so specific and narrow to leaders who are doing world-changing work, who are at that point of full surrender, who already have an enormous amount of spiritual faith, have followed their intuition, have done great things, but there were still these little places where maybe mind would get in the way, and where fear would hold them back from taking another step or letting go of something they've been doing that they had outgrown. And because I took that step myself, that became the specific and narrow focus of my business. And I became a lightning rod for people to work with me who are at exactly that point in their business. And it surged my business forward with ease, with grace, with focus, with momentum. And it just hasn't stopped since. So just an example of following the energy, get a little download, a little insight, follow the energy, and then following it throughout that whole time that I was nomadic. I just kept going where I was guided to go. And it was a business skill. And it was the bridging of the two worlds, and it directly impacted the clarity, the focus, the momentum, the magnetism of the work I was doing and the business that I run. So just wanted to give that little snippet. That was the story that came in my mind. And so many of the things that Amanda said, yes. And that's my experience as well.
Awesome. I just can't help but thinking like, this is the perfect place for me to be right now. There is no better place for me to be in this moment. I'm getting so much from everyone. And, for me, this idea of intuition really comes down to, I work with women who lead other women, and like this idea of intuition this is part of our power, but a lot of times we're so disconnected to it because we're in our heads and we're not connected to our bodies. And like, for me, intuition is really this visceral sense of being fully in my body and knowing what's next. And like Amanda was saying, being in the unknown, and even Lisa's story, about letting go of her house, for 3 years. Who does that? You're really following, not someone that's in their head thinking about, being scared of failing and any of that. But I think about, this idea. I've been in the healing and mentoring industry and like shamanic healing since 2000. I started when I was 20 years old, and I was doing one-on-one sessions with people, and I kind of had hit my max. And what I really wanted to do was work with, I wanted to work with other coaches and other facilitators. And I love working in groups. I absolutely love it. But I was so confined to like the way that it had to look this certain way. I would start something and I would fail. I would create something and it would fail. Like I wouldn't get anywhere with it. So I kind of let everything go. And I took a total step back about maybe 4 years ago. And I stopped working with people altogether. And then 3 years ago, basically what I had to do is I had to get my SHIT together. And I had to learn how to take care of myself and find out what I really wanted in my life. And like, for me, that was like, getting out of debt and like getting grounded in my world. And once all of that was taken care of, I wasn't in survival. I could feel good in my body. I could feel good, like tuning into my intuition and my power again. And that's when I got the idea, or this hit about the Worldwide Women's Circle, bringing together women all over the world on the same day. And originally it was just supposed to be just one. And now we're going 3 years strong. And following that little impulse, I call it the impulse. Following that impulse, actually, and without knowing how it was going to work, without having any idea how this was all going to work, led me to what I really wanted to do, which was mentoring. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. But mentoring and coaching women all over the world, that's what I do now. So that wouldn't have happened if I wasn't able to listen to myself.
Thank you all. So a few of you, you brought up some of these challenges and tests that you've been given while still following your intuition. Is there anything that you could say to our viewers, like little tricks or anything that you would say to maybe yourself when you're in that pitfall, in that challenge time, a way that women can, like keep an eye out for those heavier moments. And I think, I believe the valleys are important, definitely, in our careers and personal lives. But I think some valleys we get thrown into, and it's like, oh, if I would have just known that one thing. Is there anything that comes to mind with that?
I can pop in just to say the first thing that pops in my mind is to have some kind of consistency with getting quiet. For me, it's like creating space, even a few minutes, literally, like I say sometimes to people, if they don't have a regular practice, start with 2 minutes, set a timer on your egg timer or phone or whatever, and just create a bit of space so that the guidance can come, because the more easily you can hear the guidance, the stronger that connection will be. And the more you trust your guidance, the more you can avoid those pitfalls, and they are necessary. So the part 2 of that would be, when it gets extra challenging, be willing to sit in the discomfort and feel it. Don't run from it. I say, it's when it's hardest, that's the time to sit your butt down in a quiet space and just be with what's coming up in you, the fear, the doubt, the whatever, and just let yourself be with it and be the space in which it's allowed to arise. It's just a part of you that's scared. I like to say it's coming home. So the more you're listening and creating space for yourself, both to hear the guidance and to let those parts come up, those 2 things have been, among others, but those are the first 2 that essential, can't do without tools in my toolbox. So put those in as first thoughts that come to me.
So what came up for me is supporting what Lisa said. There's a term called the duende. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it, but the duende is that 0 point, that space between thoughts. That's really where the magic happens, is that 0 point energy in between something and nothing, which is essentially the concept of the duende. Really connecting to that space, because that's where the magic lives. That's that creationary point is so important. And one of the reasons why I have such an affection for neuroscience and neurobiology is really understanding, the habits and patterns of thinking, and to be conscious of that. It comes in many different names and titles, but being very conscious of that and just protecting your mind and giving yourself exercises, and consistency is key, So, it's a balance of sitting at 0 point, but then also entering new data, new information, because you have to disrupt that pattern somehow.
Right. And I'm hearing a large echo. Yeah, maybe put yourself on mute. Oh, okay, great. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely, like, having our daily practice is important without those moments of silence, because in the listening, that's really where I get my biggest aha moments is in the listening. But usually, I think it's important to know what the valleys are trying to tell us as well. Some of them, it's like, we just need to rest and be in that integration period. And there may seem like there's nothing happening, and that might be scary for some people. But if there's a loss of power, freedom, or self-expression, there's usually a story at play. And this is where it's really time. This is where badassery comes in. It's really time to get real with ourselves and see where we're being inauthentic in our lives. Or regarding this project or this thing that we're, creating and up to. That has helped me, not live in a fairy tale land, because our minds like to play tricks on us, and we feed into it and we make it real, and it's not most of the time. So when we can get underneath those belief systems or those inauthenticities and create something new, we have access. We have another lens to look through for life.
And kind of going off of that, have you talked about, being creative and self-expressed. How has self-expression shown its way into all of your work? You're all doing very different work, and sometimes it's like, oh, how are you self-expressed? But you're asking a dancer, it's like, well, I'm doing this. And then how are you self-expressed in a business? Well, I'm branding. Or so I'd love to hear how important self-expression is in each of your fields, and how you personally have been able to expand it and really be seen and heard by those around you, allowing them the time and the space to then support you.
Mm-hmm. I would love to answer this. So I consider myself a very creative and self-expressed person, but you wouldn't find me painting a painting or, at an easel or doing nude drawings or anything like that. My creativity and my self-expression is I'm a messenger. It's in my message. And that's where I get my biggest expression, is when I'm in front of people and I'm able to speak and be with people. For a long time, I wasn't. I used to be totally freaked out to be in front of people, large groups. And that was my greatest edge. And I love it. It's my sole purpose and mission in life, to be fully self-expressed. And I'm not afraid to shine. I'm not afraid to throw on some red lipstick every day if I want to, just because I want to, or some faux fur, just that's me. I'm rebellious. I'm sexual, sensual. I'm I am me. And I don't push any of those parts of me down. That's how I live in my full self-expression. Thank you.
I would say for me, my expression is, I just go back to frequency. We all, two people could be saying the same exact thing, telling the same story, giving the same advice, but your audience is going to be divided in half. Half the people are going to receive a certain message, and the other half are going to receive a different message, simply from who delivered it. So how expression has come up for me in my life is really this divine thought pattern that I just get inspired. If I meet, I'm so blessed to be surrounded with mind astronauts existing on this planet, just their sheer brilliance and understanding what it means to live from the inside out. And, there's this point of magic when it's, I always say that these people come into my orbit, and we just feed off of each other's energy in that creation. And what I have come to find confidence in as the years progressed, and being dabbling in, well, more than dabbling in all of these different big industry verticals, is my voice is powerful. My thoughts are powerful. This sense of creation and divine inspiration that is and is not unique to me is powerful. And there's a universal law, essentially, that they say that you should focus on that one thing, because if you disperse your energy across many different things, you can't really achieve much. And that is true to a certain extent. But like the cycles in life and the sine wave and the ebb and flow, sometimes we can do it all. Sometimes if we stay grounded and true to ourselves, we can do it all. And it's just about managing your own energy and not, and going back to that ebb and flow phase, kind of bouncing off of our last round of answers, is recognizing that it's a natural cycle. And sometimes when you're riding that up wave, take advantage of it, do as much as you can on that rise, because guess what? The cycle of the universe, there will be a decline. And that decline doesn't mean bad. It doesn't mean lower or less than. It means that's a time and space to reserve your energy, to build up that life force again, to push you back up that hill. And so, when I speak to just anybody, I just, and that's what you were saying about being realistic, right, Leah, earlier, about be realistic and understand where you are. And again, just following those energy waves.
Love it. So much wisdom on this call. Self-expression has been a journey for me, for sure. As an empath, super sensitive, one of my coping mechanisms was kind of keeping myself hidden, and on a seemingly harsh planet. as I grew, for me, I think self-expression has multiple levels and layers to it. It's literally how I live my life. My life is my message. Then my message is my message, so the specific thing that I'm here to deliver through my voice, through books or speaking or whatever, or teaching in whatever way I do it. So there's those couple levels, but ultimately it's been about, for me, allowing myself to just be myself, my quirky self, and no longer have these kind of shadows or ways of like kind of staying a little bit hidden. So it's been a journey to really allow myself to just be me, and to understand that part of the reason I didn't just allow myself to be me at earlier points in my journey was just because I was scared. It felt harsh. Maybe I would be criticized. Maybe I would be judged. Maybe I would be rejected. And it felt scary. And so it's been, emerging more and more in my self-expression and being more and more visible in my message has been a process of nurturing the part of me that was scared, understanding why I developed those coping mechanisms, much as Amanda's been touching on a couple of times here about, habitual thoughts and feelings, like really allowing myself to see what my habitual thoughts and feelings were that were self-protective mechanisms, and choosing new ones, allowing myself to recognize I am safe at this stage of the journey. I don't need to be hiding or in any way kind of holding back who I am, because it's unsafe anymore. It's not. So this is a new phase of life. So it's been a journey of allowing myself to feel safe, simply to be who I am and live my life the way it feels right for me, and to share my perspectives through my actual words, and the way that I write or the way that I speak. So those are a few of the things that come to me around self-expression.
Lovely. Thank you each for sharing. So I want to know, so for Leah, you're surrounded by women. I'm wondering if at any point in your business you've been, in a place where you have more men around, and then that's kind of prefacing the question, but how have you been able to leverage and actually use being a woman in your industry? How has it been beneficial? Because I think a lot of our focus has been on how women have been put down and this and that. So, you're all very successful in what you're doing and living soulful lives. So how have you been able to really use this essence of being a woman and have that help propel you forward instead of having it constrict you?
Yeah, that's a great question. No, totally. I get it. I love, so I don't focus on the patriarchy and how women have been repressed, although it's in our history and it's in our society. And I think it's important to talk about it and at least know that it's there, but it's not my main focus. You know, my step one of being a sacred badass is to thine own self be true. And that's like knowing who I am. And like my as I said, I'm a messenger, and I've also overcome a lot in my life. I've had to go through an intense healing journey of empowering myself. And I think from there, I know what people, women and men too, go through. You know, I can hear like the deep, dark stuff and know where, like, and empathize or be compassionate for that. Yeah, I don't actually know if it's like me being a woman that helps me propel myself forward, other than like, I know what it's like to be a woman and I know it's like to be a human. And so I can connect on that level. But for me, it's like really in the listening and speak, like I listen so deeply to the collective, what I'm seeing, what people are saying. Within the Worldwide Women's Circle, there's this huge opportunity to see how the life plays out through different themes, and to experience life through like in themes. And I've worked with a lot of men, and like men need healing just as much as women do. Men need empowerment just as much as women do. And I don't think that I believe that we are seeing it now. It's something that we're just cracking into. But yeah, I don't know if I just got off topic, but that's what I have to say on the subject. Thank you.
I could echo a lot of that. I think it's so beautifully said. I don't know that there's any specific way I've seen my being a woman as the specific thing that, you know, propelled me forward. Very similarly to what Leah has said, I listen deeply, I feel deeply. Perhaps because culturally women are more allowed to, or historically have been more allowed to be the ones to emote and to be the nurturers in that way. Perhaps it's been a help, but I also don't really focus on the patriarchy. I'm just more in tune with exactly like Leah said, to thine own self be true, just doing my best to be true to what inspiration comes to me, who shows up in my world. I work with both women and men. And I echo what Leah said. Like it's, same issues, you know, different body, different gender, but you know, we're all human and we all have things that are healing, that you know, we all have visions that we're nurturing and that we're stepping more into, and we are all facing fears and going beyond them. And so in that way, I just reiterate a lot of what Leah said. I really relate to that.
And same here. I completely support what the two ladies are saying. And from my experience, it's a work in progress. You know, I understand that we should balance the male and female energies within ourselves. And that's really where I put my focus on, because sometimes I do need to raise my masculine and sometimes I do need to express myself through my feminine. So I think intuitively, we just reach a point that it becomes more natural of which energy is appropriate in that space at that time. Most of my environment, to get specific about your question, is I'm surrounded by men more, which sometimes puts me more in my masculine because we are empaths and we do give and receive energies. So for me, being aware of that, I'll try and get in my body. I'll try and express the feminine through my physical nature, through my sexuality, or through dance or movement or creation. So that's just really how I see it.
You know, so real quick, I will say, because I work with a lot of women. Like I'm talking to, 10 or 15 women every day sometimes. And I noticed like that the history is still there. Women really, like, there's this opportunity for leadership, and women are really rising up. They are rising up. They are speaking out. And I'm seeing this on a worldwide level, in Africa, in Europe, in South America, but they all kind of focus on different areas. And where I stand for them is to empower them in the area of life that's most important to them. So what I see happen is when women feel empowered and they feel safe and they feel part of this community, they're more likely to take on what's important to them. And that's distinct to where they live and in their communities and what's important to them. But that's where they go and they take it on in their lives, is with their community, their families, and the issues that are important to them. Like the issues in Uganda, are a lot of the work there is focused around the young women, the little girls, who don't have access to education because it goes to the boys in the family. And when a woman, like a young girl's empowered, they know that she's less likely to have child marriage. She's more likely to go on to college. She's more likely to, to start her own business. Like that's how we get to see change happen in the world. And then women in Croatia, there was a civil war and about 20 years ago, and those women, they're learning about their voice, and they're really coming together in community. They're coming together, and it's also about the children, but the women coming together and having a space to talk is so important. So I see just different areas of empowerment depending on where the woman is in the world and what she's surrounded by.
Go ahead. I love that. And can I add one more thing too, that I just wanted to piggyback on from what Amanda said about the balancing of the masculine and feminine energy in each of us. And that's something that I'm passionate about, that subject as well, and teach a lot about and practice a lot of myself, that, this forward movement around the goddess is not only gender specific. It's women and men balancing their masculine and feminine energies inside themselves. And so, yes, we see more women gender-wise coming forward in their leadership, but even like women, a lot of the women that I work with, and it's been my own journey, I was very left brain, very good in school, followed the corporate track. Like that was a left brain, a lot of masculine energy moving me forward in the early part of my life and career. And my personal healing journey and self-expression journey has been about balancing that and letting my feminine come back and be more in my body and dance more and trust more and surrender more and feel more and all these feminine energies. And the same is true with men. I work with men as well. And it's the same with them, where they get to come more into their feminine, more into their hearts, more into their emotions, more. So the movement of the feminine, the expression of the feminine, the movement of the goddess is coming through all of us, not just women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like to say with Goddess Fest, I've had a few people that are interviewing me about what Goddess Fest is, and they're like, "Oh, tell me about this feminist revolution," and I'm like, "Wait, this isn't a feminist revolution. This is a love revolution, a unity revolution. It's about bringing the two energies together." So what I'm seeing throughout each of you, as you are all these powerful leaders, being able to lead from that very balanced state. Because I think when you're you haven't stepped into your leadership or you haven't stepped into your purpose, I feel like it's usually because there's an imbalance in one way or the other for men or women. And so how can we just bring these two energies together internally? And I think that'll really be reflected in the outside world, which is why we invite men to come check this out. There's snippets and nuggets for you too. And for the women to step into their more masculine side if they've been floating around and aren't able to get their vision into a container that can be useful in the world, or the corporate track and doing that and not tapping into their expressions. So
and it's in the macro and it's in the micro. It's like kind of over an arc, moving more into the feminine. But as Amanda said, knowing when to use which energy, when to tap it. Sometimes you need a little more masculine, sometimes you need a little more feminine. There's a grace and a dance between the two, and knowing when to tap into each one.
definitely.
So fun too.
I love that. There's a grace and a dance. That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
And I really see it's obvious, right? We are in the point that humanity has been waiting for. We are in that period of the rise of consciousness. I mean, it's palpable. It's sticky in the air. It's so exciting. Everybody's lives are transitioning, whether it be good and bad, whether it be divorce or moving or relocating or starting a new career or what have you. We are in this space and time where energetically it's not allowing us to play small. We are being pushed to rise up, and collective consciousness, we're all rising up together. And as we're talking about the masculine, Rae, I love that about Goddess Fest is that even though it has the name Goddess Fest, we all love our titles, right? So where you guys were saying earlier about people, what were you saying about what about this feminist movement? And you were like, no, because once you decide something or label something, you're basically collapsing the limitless potentiality of this universe that we live in. And it's time for us as women also to relieve the men of the misconception that they have to provide for us, that they have to be the breadwinner, they have to be the warrior, they have to be the protector. And evolutionarily, just a observation of time, looking back at the caveman, that whole cliche of, they say that's why women are really good at multitasking, is because back in the cave days, men had to focus collectively to hunt that one animal, while the women were back at the campsite with the fire and having the babies and cooking the food and getting it ready for the men, but also making sure that there's no animals about to attack them. So neurologically, I guess, over time we develop differently, but societally, I think it's time that we relieve these men of the pressure of thinking that they have to provide for us. And I think that energetically women are rising up, and as long as they're not misconstruing, like being too far off track of being a feminist, right? Again, it's I can see our theme here today is a lot about the balancing, but yeah.
Definitely.
Heck yeah.
And, Leah, you're talking about how this is really happening on a worldwide scale. This weekend, I was blessed to be able to go up to LA for a 4-day conference for global leaders. And there were 140 people attending from 44 different countries. And it was 51% women and 49% male. And you looked in the room, and every single person, it was a beautiful rainbow of people, and it was amazing to see these women that have gone through the toughest times. I'm talking about like going and being stuck in the jungle with soldiers to, creating these foundations and organizations that are helping teenage women that have kids in Africa, and like this incredible stuff. And they're standing up, and they're very much talking about this unity, and how we really need to come together to make this change happen. And that's why you see this global movement of us connecting the dots and bringing cultures together and bringing different generations together to learn, okay, here we have a ton of issues on our plate. How are we going to be able to solve this? And I think there's this drive that we all intuitively are following of, okay, let's make a change. And then also being humble enough to say, okay, maybe I need to look at myself first, and I need to need to find the balance in here so that way we can bring it out. So that was something that I got to personally experience this weekend, and it's magical. And I think that's the power of technology. And almost the whole room said they had gotten there because of Facebook ads. Being able to bring that many people together. There were about 15 people in the room out of 140, and it was their first time in the United States.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And there were even 10 other people that got denied their visas to come to this conference. So that was a big showing point too, But I think kind of bringing it back, really, they all were fully embodying the unity within themselves, and then the respect for one another, and the respect for diversity, diversity of cultures, of religions, of genders, of ages, and really, respecting themselves to have that balance of masculine and feminine, as we were talking about empathy, and then business, and gaining clients, and then love. So I think it's a beautiful world that we're kind of merging and creating, and it's such a palpable time. So thank you all so much for coming and being guests on the Global Goddess Fest, sharing some of this to our global audience. And you're each making such an impact in your industries. So thank you for being a leader and an inspiration for me and for everyone that's watching. And for you that are watching, Leah has a beautiful gift for you, the Circle Leaders Guide to Women's Circles. So that will be a resource that will be emailing you and will also be on our website. And then Lisa has a gift, the Access Your Soul's Guidance meditation. So would either of you like to add a sentence or two in about what you're offering them?
Sure. Yeah. So this is, circle leadership is one of the best ways I think that I use to empower women and get women to create community in their local area, or on a virtual level. So what I'm offering is, number one, an invitation to lead circles on behalf of the Worldwide Women's Circle. And number two, it is the support and the container that allows you to stand on a global platform and offer your circles to the world.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And in my case, one of my superpowers is guided meditations, or so I'm told. So what I really love to do, and what's available in this meditation that you just mentioned was, I like to say your guidance is available in every moment. Your soul always knows your next steps. And so one of the reasons my meditations are enjoyed and helpful is they take you to that place where your knowing lives, to allow you to quiet things down and to bring whatever question you may have. They clear energy away, so you have kind of a reset and energetically, and then a chance to access your guidance on any decision. Could be a business decision, could be any kind of decision, but that's what that meditation is designed for.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much. We look forward to seeing you all next time, and thank you for joining the Global Goddess Fest.
Thank you, Rae.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies.
So nice to meet you
today.